Did I bring it? My power bank. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 14th edition. Oh, shoot. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 14th edition of our Building Bridges webinar series. Today is going to be an awesome time. We're going to be discussing avoiding common pitfalls in the migration process. We've just gone live. We'll just give about 5 minutes for people to join us, and then we'll proceed. We'll just take 5 minutes for people to join us, and then we'll proceed with our program for this evening, which promises to be right exciting and very interesting. Get your questions ready and those important things you've wanted to ask for someone who has the experience. Get ready for an awesome evening with us. Thank you so much. So good evening once more, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here this evening. We're so happy to have the audience with us. We're happy to have everyone who has always partnered with us with our Building Bridges webinar series. This is a series where we actually educate people on migration, avoiding the risk of irregular migration, and then, of course, not falling victim of human trafficking and all the ills of migration. Migration is a fact of life. Everyone is allowed to migrate, but all we advocate here is do it the right way. This is Esangbedo Humanitarian Foundation, an organization that is firmly rooted in helping the youths and everybody at large to migrate the right way, not fall victim. So over the years, we've had a series of webinars in this way where we've talked about education, we've talked about work and studies and different ways you can get to migrate out of the country and do the best for yourself. And so this evening, we have a very special guest, Mr. Osita Osemene, who is the Executive Director of Patriotic Citizens Initiative. He's going to be with us this evening to talk to us about his own personal experience. And then, of course, we can learn a lot from him. He's going to be able to give us detailed, in-depth analysis of what it is to migrate irregularly. What are those things he saw that made him come back home? And how has he been able to adapt and be reintegrated into the society, and how he is helping others. With us today, aside Mr. Osita, is the chairman of Esangbedo Humanitarian Foundation, Mrs. Sarah Ajose Adeogun, who is a very respected person in the society. She's one of the ESG champions of today. Sarah Esangbedo Ajose Adeogun is the founder and managing partner of Tisu Consulting Limited, and also the chairman of Esangbedo Humanitarian Foundation. She is a former community content creator at Shell Petroleum Development Company and also served as a special advisor on strategy, policy, projects, and performance management to the government of Edo State a couple of years back. She is also the host of Sarah Speaks podcast on YouTube and is a foremost woman in speaking on ESG in Nigeria today, highly recognized and respected in the industry. Mrs. Ajose Adeogun is here with us, and she will give us a couple of words in a few minutes. Mr. Osita Osemene, who is today speaking to us, is a Nigerian human rights advocate, and he's known for his work in human trafficking, against human trafficking and irregular migration. He's the executive director and founder of the Patriotic Citizens Initiative, a Lagos-based NGO. He's also a master trainer in entrepreneurship development. In his background, he is a returnee himself, and this drives his advocacy work. This helps him people understand him because he knows what people are going through. He knows they have traveled the wrong way and then they've had to come back, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes involuntarily. He has over 15 years experience in active advocacy and campaigning against human trafficking and migrant smuggling across West Africa. Through PCI, he provides psychosocial support, business training, and access to funds for returnees and victims of human trafficking. Today, he has trained over 25,000 returnees in Nigeria in association with IOM, an international organization on migration. And he also runs awareness campaigns in schools and universities and communities and churches just to ensure people don't fall into the trap that he fell into. Today, he collaborates with IOM, NCFRMI, NAPTIP, and other international organizations that work against human trafficking and irregular migration. He also is an author, a recognized author, and today, through his organization and because of his experience, he runs a shelter here in Nigeria, a 40-bed space shelter in Nigeria, where people who are returned can actually have a good start before they can get back on their feet. So please help me to welcome Mr. Osita Osemene. Before he speaks to us, we would like to hear a word from our chairperson, Mrs. Sarah Esangbedo Ajose Adeogun. Thank you so much, Ma, for giving us this opportunity to speak to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Osita, for being here today with that very strong resume. I'm actually looking forward to you sharing knowledge, sharing experience, and getting more people to understand that, yes, migration is a right and migration happens every day. But we must learn to migrate the right way. We must learn to get all the documentations right, migrate right, because at the end of the day, if you do not migrate right, you get into trouble, you get into issues. So we want people to avoid those pitfalls, and that's why we are here today. We started this journey because in Edo State, we have a lot of people, we had a lot of people while I was in government who were returned. And it came from the mindset that I just want to travel. We are losing a lot of our young talents in this illegal journey, passing through the desert, going through the sea, losing their lives, every day. But we can go well. We can go the right way. It's just a lack of information. And it's the information that we created this platform to provide, because we believe that when people make decisions based on the right information, they definitely will get the right outcomes. So thank you, Osita, for partnering with us to share information that will help the next generation of Nigerians make the right decision and keep many of them alive for their parents for the long time, making an impact in our country, because we do need every single one of us to contribute to making Nigeria the country that we want it to be. So thank you, Osita, and back to you, Angela.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Ajose Adu. It was so good hearing from you. I need this is something that it's passion for you, and you have shown over the past few years that indeed this is something you want to work hard for Nigeria, especially with the youths in the country. My name is Angela Atonda. I'm the managing director of Isagbedo Humanitarian Foundation, and I'll be your moderator for this program this evening. Mr. Osita, it's so good to have you here with us. The floor is open for you. We're here to learn from your wealth of experience, and we really want to hear your story of how you got to where you are today and what you're
Thank
doing to
you.
change the narrative. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the privilege and the opportunity that you have given to me today, being 28th of May. I want to first of all appreciate you guys, the organizers, the Esambede Humanitarian Foundation, and the team for this very, very important program. And it's a program that I take very, very personal, and something that I've also I've been doing, and I also wanted to do it with a lot of people, because information is power. Like you said, you would like to hear my story, which is is a good story that people should also hear and also look at it from the point of view of a Nigerian who have also seen this kind of a thing. All Nigerians, everybody in Nigeria, we are hungry to leave the country. I was discussing with my children yesterday, my two daughters, and I was asking them, if you have opportunity to leave this country, if you have opportunity to go to any country aside from Nigeria, maybe Europe, or they said, Daddy, we will leave. I said, I was shocked. So they said, Daddy, we will leave. I said, you mean you will leave this country, even with all the things you are hearing? He said, no, Daddy, we will leave this country. They said, saying a lot of things. Yes, it is good to travel out. It is good to move, because migration is part of life. People are bound to leave. But how I wish when I was leaving this country, I had the informations that you people are providing now, avoiding common pitfalls in the migration process. If I had gotten these informations, I think I wouldn't have, been able to go through those very rigorous and horrible process and even experience. So I think today's topic is very important for our youths. It's very important for every citizen of Nigeria, not just our youths, because everybody is a moving, have this tendency of moving out of the country, looking at, the situations. But before you move, you need to understand certain things. Like when I traveled, I left this country after my university education. I looked for a job. I didn't get a job, and I was very desperate to get a job because I needed to have my ends meet. I needed to support family people. And the pressure was on me, that, man, you have to move fast so that you're able to provide for people around you and also provide for yourself. And I was doing business on my own. I started a business, but the business was full of uncertainty. There was no funds, there was a lot of frustration, the business crumbled. And the next decision was, man, I have to leave this country. I have to leave the shores of this country. And I actually planned to live in a regular way. I did not plan to live in a regular manner, because one of the things that people don't understand is most people who have embarked on this irregular journey must have tried their best to get the adequate, support or assistance, and before they fall into these hands of them traffickers or smugglers. I actually got a passport. I got a visa. And as a novice, as somebody who wants to travel, who was desperate to travel, and didn't know what it takes to, what a visa looks like, what a fake visa looks like, or what a fake passport looks like. Yes, I was happy. I got it. I paid some amount of money through friends. I wanted to be very, very conversant, and also be very, very observant about the words I'm using and the kind of information I'm giving to you, because smugglers are not, they are around us. They are not people you don't know. They are people you know. Anybody that facilitates the process, it could be a family member, it could be a friend, they will link you from one person to another, and everybody is involved. Do you know that I got a visa with the assistance of friends in good faith? They were happy that they are assisting me to get out of this country, and I had the funds to provide, because I was able to mop up funds, get from families, get some support. They got a visa for me. I was going to UK. They got a visa, they got a passport, but the passport then was this passport they normally give, is they call it resemblance, for resemblance. They put my face, but it's not my name. But because of the desperation, I was prepared to take anything, because they have already given me all the orientation that people are traveling with all this kind of document. Now, at the end of the day, I went happily to the airport, Lagos Airport, to travel out of this country to United Kingdom. We bought ticket, British Airways. And when I got to the airport, I was about to board. I was the last person about to board, about 5 minutes to the closing of the boarding pass. And the guy at the boarding table looked at my passport and said, young man, yes, I've seen your passport. Where are you going to? I said, I'm going to UK. Please, I need my boarding. I said, boarding pass? He said, no, you have to wait. You have to wait for the British High Commission. I said, why? I started, trying to prove I was right. Why are you delaying me? He said, no, you have to wait for British High Commission. So, while I was coming in, I had encountered with some security agencies who have seen my passport, who have also wished me, a safe journey, and I showed some appreciation, we exchanged some pleasantries, and they saw me that I got stopped. So one of them approached me and said, young man, please, can you come close? They said, leave now, there's problem. They have found out that your passport is having issue. I said, what issue? I don't know. I have my ticket. I started to, I wanted to prove my point, but I didn't know that my point was I was just being stupid, because I had no knowledge about what I have in my hand, because I was not well informed. And I left. When I left, frustration became, the order of the day for me. And I started putting up calls, because the guy saved me from the situation, because that alone would have taken me to jail. And what I learned was that could have taken me between 11 years and 21 years in jail, because I was not well informed. But at the end of the day, I left, but I was frustrated. Frustration doubled. I made some calls, some persons that thought that I would have been, already airborne, and when I called, they were all shocked. They said, no. So I mistakenly, or will I call it mistakenly, or how nature could also have it, I put up a call to a very close relative that told me that they had some crew, that had some people that are waiting, that they are going to Spain, and they are waiting for one or two persons to make up the number, and it's going to take like 5 days. It's going to be like a tourist journey. Now, look at somebody who has come out from a situation, a desperate young man that wants to leave the fortunes of this country, and is coming out from a situation that, he would have been arrested, and he wanted to go to abroad, UK precisely, and I came out. And the option came that I will go in a form of a tourist journey. Somebody will carry us without any explanation. And I didn't know much about whether there is trafficker, whether there was smuggler, how the road was going to look like, whether it was going to be desert. I was not informed. But I was desperate. The next thing that came up, I said, okay, fine. How much am I going to pay? They said, yes, you have to hold your money, but with 250,000, I was able to mop up from the remaining money that I had. I now proceeded. They were in Asaba, and I had to go to Asaba to meet them. And when I got to Asaba, I actually saw people waiting. Just within 24 hours, I was in Asaba. Excuse me. And I saw people waiting, young boys and young girls, they were waiting. They made me to understand that they have been waiting for me, that I'm the last person so that we can leave. They asked me if I had my money. I said yes. They wanted me to hand over the money to somebody who is like a lead. I said no, I can hold my money. I was very conscious of myself. But we actually commenced the journey with the group. We left from there, from Asaba to Onitsha, from there to Kano. Kano, we got to the park, because they have already briefed me that it's going to be like a tourist journey, that we're going to get we're going to be sleeping in hotels. So I didn't see any risk there, and I also look at it that we're going to be going to countries and, we'll be fine. Then we got to Kano. From Kano, we now got some provisions. They said, get some provisions, get some gari, get some spaghetti. I said, and I asked a question. I said, if it's going to be a kind of tourist journey, yes, fine, I know you can have some provision with you, but you said, we're going to be in a hotel. The hotel, we have some food. They said, don't worry, just prepare, And we left. From there, we got to the first state in Kano, in Niger, from Kano. That is Zinden. I got to Zinden. After a very long journey, I started observing some terrible, movement, and some people. I started seeing some Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians, gathering in some locations. Started seeing some people providing some kind of assistance, connection. I was with my passport. At Zinde, my passport was confiscated to tell me that no, you cannot. At this point, you cannot say you are a Nigerian. You have to, because the journey is somehow, you have to say you are from Mauritania or, Liberia. You claim a country. But because they have already given us the orientation that Nigerians on that transit, on that road, always have issues. So I was skeptical, but my mind was on the journey. Yeah, they put us in a enclosed in a building. Somebody was in charge. They have paid the person. They handed us over. Unknowingly, they were handing us over to people, and these people were traffickers and smugglers. But if you have your money, you pay your way through. I noticed that they were making arrangements. We spent some days from there. We went to Agadez. From Agadez, they kept us almost in the same situation too. They were paying because we were giving money to people who were paying through for us on the road, and our lead person was also in charge of the whole journey. So when we go to Agadez, we also connected to a particular house. We were there for some time. They organized us to start moving through the desert, en route Libya. They organized us, they put us in a place, and they said, okay, the truck is now ready to move. We went to a very mighty truck. Then we used to call it, the truck looked like this 911, where you tie the firewood and you buy a jerrycan of water, you tie it. We all were hanging there. You see a crowd of people, we're all there. My mind was the Europe I was going. I had not, decided to turn back because I was already in a mood that if I don't get to this place, I will not be fulfilled. Now, we continued and we entered the vehicle, the truck. The truck took us through the desert for days, more than 7-8 days, until we got to a camp they called Duruku. Where in that camp, we saw it's like a settlement where you have military camp and people stay there. There are people trading, buying things, and they have some connection houses where people stay to wait for the next connection to the next, either the next camp or the next transit settlement where you will be heading to as you're heading to Libya. So this was how we were going, and a lot of Nigerians were on that route. A lot of people, a lot of them were stranded, a lot of them were getting mad. A lot of them have lost all their bearing in terms of There was no fun. They have been extorted. Some people have been robbed, because in such journey, it was then I knew that that journey was a journey of life and death. So because I was able to secure my funds, I was able to secure my life. On that route, if you don't secure your funds, you are a dead person. So I don't know what gave me the courage and the initiative, because I was also asking some questions, and some people were telling me, come, keep your money, don't give anybody your money, don't ensure that nobody takes your money. So I was able to manage myself, pay myself my way through until I got to Libya. I got to Libya. En route that Libya, there were a lot of incarcerations. There were a lot of our guests being raped. Some people dying. We saw some people dying. At a point, even on our journey, we were not able to continue again with the vehicle. We had to trek a long distance that we had no water. A lot of things happened. If you read my book is titled Chasing a Mirage, My Search for an Oasis. I will share the link so that maybe some of you can get across to the book. You will read the story. It's very, very comprehensive, complicated, and very interesting. The story is so horrible that by the time you get information of what people go through the desert and what I experienced that time, I don't know how you will feel. So when I got to Libya, we got to the first state in Libya, Gatron. From Gatron, we proceeded to Sabah. At that level, I was almost lured to becoming a criminal, because I was stripped off of my integrity. I've been stripped off of my rights. I've been stripped off of my security, everything. I met a gang of boys that told me, bros, you don't enter. Or this place where you did now, not if it happen, or if you go back, if you go front. That was the message. And the next thing was, look, if it is possible, you can join us. So what we are doing here is burglary. They go to break, because in the state where we are, what we have there is old men. What am I saying? All these things are my experience. These are the problems. These are the challenges that you face when you don't get the appropriate information in embarking on a journey that you are supposed to embark in a regular way. Now, we got there. You are bound to do what you are not supposed to do, which can lead you into a problem. Now he told me, I said, I left Nigeria, a graduate that wanted to go for greener pastures, and I left Nigeria to come to Libya to come and be doing burglary and kill people, because when you come there, you see the old man and the old woman, they have money at home. They don't keep money in the bank. During the Muammar Gaddafi time, they keep a huge money at home. Then they come and tie them with sellotape. Some will kill them, take their money, and run away. I said, is this what I'm going to do in the name that I'm going to Europe? And eventually, I was able to escape that evil, plan that these people were, right? Because actually, I knew myself. So I escaped it and went to the next state. In the next state, they were arresting Nigerians, they were arresting blacks, because of the means of entry. They bust connection houses. So I had to leave the connection house. I was sleeping in a car wash. They call it Lawaju. I slept in a car wash for a very long time before I proceeded to Tripoli, until when I got to Tripoli, at the point where I decided that I cannot go into Europe like a madman. I was at the point of entering the boat that would take us to Europe. Italy precisely. At the end of the day, what I now saw, because I left Nigeria with a bag, with Sancho's, with beautiful dress, hand chain, very beautiful chain wristwatch, everything. I was stripped off of everything on transit. I was left with a very dirty innerwear, a singlet, but that was part of the journey. And when I got there, I looked at myself. I said, is this how I'm going to enter Europe? What am I going to tell people? How can I go into Europe like this? I started canvassing people. Then I was already looking awkward. I was looking very deadly. And I told these people, I said, is this how we're going to go into Europe? After all these months of perilous, of suffering? And now told them, some of them would say, we have been here some have stayed there for 1 year, some have stayed for 6 months, some have spent 2 years. They are still waiting to see how they can go into Europe. And I told them, I said, no. I now looked at, I still have some money left. I told some persons, about 4 of them, I said, I am coming back to Nigeria. I have a country. I need to go back to my country. And if this is how I'm going to make it in life, I think this is the last bus stop for me. And I took a decision. I returned back, and so about 4 persons joined me when I was coming back to the country. I even assisted them because they didn't have money. The little money I had, assisted them to the point of Kano. It was Kano, we now dispersed. Then from there, when I was coming back, something kept on telling me, Mr. Osita, if you were well informed, you wouldn't have gotten into this problem. I think there is a gap, that something is missing somewhere in Nigeria, because even when I was returning, I saw a large number of our youths, boys and girls, all in a hurry that they were going to Europe, all in a desperate mood that they were going to Europe, that they are waiting for them in Italy, that they are waiting for them in Spain. I said, there is no job. Nobody is waiting for you. They said, no, they are waiting, that their brother is there. I said, well, I tried my best. I couldn't convince, but something kept on telling me, when you go back, start up a crusade, start up an organization that will inform people about this thing. Whether anybody believes it or not, keep telling them, because I saw hell. And eventually, when I managed to return back, I went, as I got to Kano, I just looked for where I could go for self-rehabilitation. I went to Sokoto State, where nobody knew me. That was what informed me that in the course of intervening and providing information, that there's going to be a place where people should stay when they have this kind of problem. That was what informed me to have a shelter in the process of my adventure, in the process of my carrying out my activities as an organization and as a person. And when I finished my 1 year self-rehabilitation, I came down to the South. When I finished in the North, I came back to the South, and I started massive campaign. I started going to media houses. I started going to television station, identify some mentors. That was where I had this late Ambassador Olusegun Olushola, the founder of African Refugee Foundation, who was my mentor, who gave me the privilege and the visibility. He was always in my program. Anywhere I was going to, international parks, borders, schools, churches, I was talking like a madman then. I was very aggressive and very passionate, because of the things I saw. And we continued until the advent of the Libya, Arab Spring, where people now were evacuated from Libya, a large number of Nigerians, and I became involved. I got involved in providing support, because I joined the IOM to develop the concept of the reintegration for these returnees. Being that I had experience, and I've also been able to build my capacity to a certain level that will help me to contribute on how best they can handle these people and how best we can provide information. And that is the journey that I have been for a very long time till now. And in the course of this journey, I have been able to get, across to a lot of returnees, both from Europe and in North Africa. I've been to Europe even after this. My experience have given me the privilege, and my job, in this intervention, also giving me the opportunity to travel to a lot of Europe countries. Like, I've been to Italy, I've been to Netherlands, I've been to Spain, and I've visited even the detention houses. I've visited, some of the accommodation houses where they keep stranded Nigerians, where they keep Nigerians that do not have the required documents, where they keep Nigerians that came through the back door, that came through the sea, that came through the desert, that came through the air, and their papers have been, they are not well, the papers are not complete. I've been there, I've gone to see them, and you see a lot of Nigerians stranded, and more Nigerians are getting stranded every day. As I'm talking to you now, we have Nigerians that are moving because they feel that they don't have enough information. And that is why I feel that this program that have come today is a program that will be very useful to our Nigerian families, not just our youths, because by the time you provide these information to families, they will provide it to their children. So avoiding common pitfalls in migration process is a very, very important topic. We have issue of safe migration, we have issue of informed decision, we have issue of sustainable reintegration. Yes, if I had information, very well, I will migrate safely. If I had enough information, I will make an informed decision. And when I returned back, there was no opportunity for reintegration. I created the reintegration for myself. I was able to go back to the system, and I started from the scratch. And how did I start from the scratch? First of all, I secluded myself. I had to go for what they call self-rehabilitation. I went through a process of healing, because it is very important in reintegration. You cannot be successfully reintegrated when you are not healed. You cannot be successfully reintegrated when you don't know what you want. You cannot be successfully reintegrated when you have not decided to settle down, build your capacity, because some of these things that are lacking among some of us who have decided or who want to be desperate to live is we do not want to build our skills up that could match what is happening. We need to understand the common errors people make before traveling, including trusting false promises, poor planning, and lack of information, which affected me. We need to learn about exploitation, trafficking, detention. Some of these places that we were detained. I remember when we were moving from Gatron to Sabah, we were kept on the boot of a vehicle. We were hiding into another state, you know. And also, as somebody who is traveling, you need to look at your financial capacity. Do you have the money? Do you have the funds with you? You can imagine if I did not have enough funds with me, the problem I would have run into. A lot of people who didn't have funds, many of them died on a road. A lot of them are stranded in Europe because they don't have enough funds, they were not well prepared. You need to discover the importance of following a very legitimate pathway, doing proper documentation, verifying opportunities before moving, before going. You know, I have traveled after that my incident, and I know what I have, you know, what happened. I go to embassies now and they give me visa without thinking, because I already have all the requirements and they know that I have the capacity, they know that I have the skills. But before I traveled, all these things were not there. And these are the things that people should begin to look at. How do I get all these things? And what are the common pitfalls? Lack of information. You rely on rumors. You look at social media. You believe on what is on social media without further asking questions, without investigating. You look at the irregular route. You feel that is safe. They will tell you nothing will happen. These are unsafe and undocumented channels for migration. You prefer them telling you about fake jobs. I remember recently, I trained about 45 Nigerians that returned from Dubai, from Oman, and from Lebanon. All of them were promised. They were all packaged from Nigeria for jobs. They all signed agreement. They all traveled by air. They had visas, and they promised. When they got there, they confiscated their visas. All these were fake promises. Now, they were actually giving jobs, but what kind of job were they giving? Domestic services. They were exploiting them. At the end of the day, they confiscated a passport. They were earning, and the person that connected them, the trafficker or the smuggler, was the one collecting the money on their behalf. These are problems because there was no proper questioning and investigation. Poor financial planning. Why do you travel without saving? Why do you travel without an emergency support? You don't have anybody, and you don't have any backup when you are stranded in abroad or in Europe, wherever you're going to. Who do you call upon? Because these are the issues. If you don't have anybody, you'll be stranded. Then there are issues of legal requirement. You know, most people move without visa. Most people move with visa, but the visa is visiting visa or even a tourist visa. Most people move with permits and poor documentation. Now, if you have a visa and your visa is 1 month, and after the expiration of the visa, you continue your stay, you become an irregular migrant. You will be seen as somebody who has committed an offense against the state. Now, what are the type of migration we have? We have regular migration. These informations are very key for you. Movement through approved legal channels using valid visas, permits, or travel documents. Then we have irregular migration, moving outside legal framework, often involving unsafe route, like I took. I went through the Libya route, which is very unsafe, through Niger Republic, which is very unsafe. Then we have internal migration, movement within the same country, such as from rural to urban areas in search of opportunities and also greener pastures. We also have international migration, crossing national borders to live, work, study, or seek protection in another country. These things are very important. Information are very important for you to know the kind of migration you are looking at. Then we have forced migration, movement caused by conflict, disaster, persecution, or insecurity, which we have also experienced among Nigerians. We have voluntary migration that is based on personal choice for education, for employment, family reunification, or better living conditions. So as somebody who is desperate or who wants to move, because migration is part of life. I am not discouraging anybody from migrating, but I'm trying to let you know that before you can migrate, you must be well prepared. You must be well informed. Then what are the risks faced during this irregular migration? You can be trafficked. A migrant, a smuggled migrant can become a victim of trafficking because you will be stripped of your rights. You will be exploited. You will be detained. You will be placed in detention camp. They can turn you to a criminal. You will be deported. You can face deportation. You will be imprisoned. You will lose money, documents, identity. Your mental health will be destroyed. You'll be traumatized. You have the dangerous travel conditions and insecurity. You can be killed. I have a boy in my shelter now. He has been in the shelter for the past 3 months. Do you know that this boy was shot in Libya and the guy lost himself? He lost his senses. If I go to the shelter, he doesn't talk to anybody. If he sees you, he will stay in the shelter. He will still, all he knows is eat his food and go. And there's attention given to him now that we're trying to work on his mental health, and the International Organization for Migration is also trying to support to see how they can treat him. These are the feedbacks. These are the issues faced when you are embarking on this dangerous journey. Most times our youth will tell you, I beg, because succeed. That is why you are saying all these things. These are realities. I'm not talking as a researcher. I am not talking as a professor from the university. I'm talking as somebody who went through it. And I'm still living, even though I have outgrown it, even though I have been reintegrated. But this is an experience that will die with me. It's an experience that I will never forget. Even my children are aware of this experience. Now, what are the requirements for safe migration? You need valid documentation. You need your passport, visa. You need to have a contract. You need to identify documents that are genuine and up to date. How? You need to research destination countries, understand the laws, cultures, and employment conditions. Let me tell you, if I had known that I was going to an Arab country where I'll be locked in a place I will not come out, I wouldn't have gone. If I had known that I'll be in a place where people do not value human rights, I wouldn't have gone. Then we have contacts, embassy contacts. You have to search. Now, the digital era we are now has given opportunity for you to ask questions in different places. Family contacts or support organizations, as they are accessible all times. Now we have a lot of organizations that are creating awareness. We have the Migrant Resource Center, we have NAPTIP, we have the Nigerian Immigration Service, we have CSOs everywhere, that can give you opportunity. All you need is to search. Like our organization now, if you go to the internet and ask of organization that is providing shelter services or providing reintegration services or providing information or support or advisory services, they will come up. Then you can go to all these places. You travel with realistic savings. Avoid borrowing excessively so that you don't hide. So that when you have problem and return back, you will not lose yourself. You don't depend on strangers when you are traveling, in these things. Ask questions. Then you need skills. You need to acquire employable skills, vocational training to improve your opportunities abroad. Things that you can do that will earn you money, that will provide you dignity. Because most times, our people go there, once you go there in an irregular manner, you end up on the street and you start selling drugs because you don't have a skill. You are not well prepared. But when you have a skill, you are well trained, you have a vocation. When you get there, you will see that you'll be able to fit into the system. Then what are the smart steps for this? You need to verify job offers and recruitment agencies. It's becoming so rampant. A lot of people, out of desperation, they see themselves, they don't ask questions. This will help you to avoid fraud. This will help you to avoid trafficking. This will help you to avoid fake contracts and exploitation. And also by ensuring that opportunities are genuine and they are legally approved. Now you need to understand destination countries' laws and culture. Like I said before, if I had known that I was going to go through a country where they don't have respect for human rights, I wouldn't have been there. Then you need to use regular channels, for your travel. It will reduce the risk of arrest and deportation. It will reduce detention. It will reduce exploitation. You also need to build your employable skills before departure. Professional and vocational skills increase job opportunities, financial stability, and self-reliance. Stay connected with trusted support networks. Strong family, relate with embassies, community support system provide guidance, emergency assistance, and emotional support during challenges. One of the advantages I had when I returned back was that my family also, even though we were not together at that point, they stood by me. They were supporting me, not financially, but they were supporting me morally. They were supporting me by giving me hope. Most times when people return back, families are also a big problem. Instead of supporting these people to recover, they begin to tell them, why did they return back? Why should you come back? You would have been there. People are there, they didn't return. Why did you return? You would have died there. These are things that will help one not to recover fast. But when you have a family that supports you, that do not put you under pressure, you have friends that do not put you under pressure, there is tendency that you are going to recover fast. Now we're looking at reintegration and recovery of returnees. There are a lot of activities that are going on: psychosocial and support counseling, skill acquisition and livelihood support, family and community reintegration. That also motivated me. By my experience, I said, okay, if I'm able to tell these people not to go, and the people who return, how do I support them? The ones that are going, if they are stubborn and they go, if they come back, what is on ground for them? I needed to build my capacity, because one of the easiest way to impart on people is by experience. And I observed it, and it has worked for a long period of time. I built my capacity, entrepreneurship development. I grow to almost to the peak, so that I'll be able to provide support for these returnees and even potential migrants. Now, when you mentioned my name, you said I'm a master trainer in Start and Improve Your Business. It's an ILO product that is being delivered in 120 countries. Anybody that is being trained in that product, or you are a trainer, if I travel from here now to another country, I can train, because they are using the product in those countries. So that is why I built my capacity in that area, so that returnees, even though they want to train as entrepreneurs, when you train them and they move, for the fact that they have experience and they have been trained in that level, they can fit into the system. Also, they can become trainers, and they can also use it to support themselves, in terms of livelihood support. Then, business startup and economic empowerment support. There are a lot of activities going on by IOM, by GIZ, by different organizations which we partner with. Then we have a lot of people who return back that have health issue. I have mentioned somebody who is in our shelter that is getting support. Then people who want to go for education, people who want to go for that needs protection. There is a guy that also in my shelter now. He was returned back after 16 years from India. He has a wonderful skill. He's an ICT expert, global standard, and he was working in a very big company in India. What was his offense? He had passport, he had visa, but the visa expired. He took it for granted. He did not renew it. And when the government remembered him, they didn't take it that he's working, or they just told him, you have less than 24 hours to leave this country. He came back, he left his car, he left his house, things in his house. He came back with just a bag. As I'm talking to you now, he's in our shelter, trying to recover, because his expectations were cut short. And the guy has been affected, emotionally and psychosocially. So supporting returnees and reintegration, they need our emotional support, dignity and community acceptance. We don't need to treat them as people who have failed. We need to also give them access to vocational trainings. The ones that have skills, we need to help them to assess skills in Nigeria. We need to provide them with psychosocial counseling. We need to link them to support. And that is why we have government organizations like the National Commission for Refugees, like the NAPTIP. They are government organizations that we can recommend these people. If there are opportunities by the government, so that they can help, to link them up. Community awareness need to be increased, so that to reduce stigma and discrimination against these returnees. Remember, most of these returnees, all of them have different cases. We have people with different problems. Some are victims of trafficking, some are victims of torture, some are victims of kidnapping in the course of this year journey. So we are appealing, even the government agencies and NGOs, they should also have a concrete partnership to provide referral and protection service for these people. And one of the good things that I have observed that is going on now through this program is the information we are passing. I tell people, prevention is the best thing that can happen to anybody. And we have always been saying it, that prevention is better than cure. And I know that by the time this information goes out to our beneficiaries are potential migrants and the ones that are still stranded over there and that want to return back to Nigeria. Because this program will give them an eye-opener to let them know there are organizations on ground that can work. There are organizations on ground that are providing information. And I know the El Salvador Humanitarian Foundation will also be acting as an advisory organization to help give information to some of these people, those who are in transit and those who are abroad. It will go a long way. The next slide, please. So, the key message I have for this is that migration should be a choice made with accurate information, proper planning, and safe pathway, not desperation or misinformation. Yeah. So, thank you. If there is any question,
Wow.
I am available
Wow.
to answer.
Wow. 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 This is awesome. This is interesting. When you hear people say, oh, they have people who have traveled and they came back, sometimes people think it's just story, I don't believe it, but we see someone who went through it, who is coming back and telling us it was horrible. In fact, I was listening to your story and at a point I was shedding tears because I don't know how else you can tell people what you want to do is wrong except to hear it from the horse's mouth. Pardon me, but that is the only way. And there's some people, in working in this industry, we have realized that there are some people, even after they've heard this, even after they have been rescued and brought back, 3 months down the line, the person is planning to go again. I know IOM keeps a record of this kind of people who have been returned. They asked for assistance and they were brought. So maybe my own question to you, sir, is what are these organizations doing to ensure that this kind of people don't have the opportunity to go again? I know it's a free world. You can't seize people's passport. But can we tell the immigration service, can we flag these people at the airports to make sure at least those that will pass through the airport, I know not a lot of them would, but I want to believe anybody who has suffered going through your route in the first place will not boldly go through that route a second time. Please talk to us about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, with my experience working with these people, I have realized that even when you talk, most people, will still do the same thing because, like I said, if you listen very well, you see ahead. When I was in a program and I was trying to share my experience in a radio program, and somebody called and said that Mr. Oster is talking rubbish, that it's because he did not succeed. That is why he's saying all those things. People will keep on going. But like I said, even IOM, they have little they can do. Nigeria Immigration Service may not be able to stop people from crossing the borders or, because there are a lot of people, movement and everything. You looking at the free movement protocols, looking at people moving, But I think that the best way that we can do is this education, this providing, we need to upscale. We need to be very, very intentional about providing this information, keeping structures on ground that can also, because the more people, the more success stories we have on ground about people who do not succeed, but they succeeded in Nigeria, will also help. I have seen people who have come through my office, because they have heard my story and because they see that I am strong now in Nigeria and I can travel anytime I want to travel. They decided not to travel again. So I think the best thing is for us to have good result in our prevention messages and also good result in our intervention. If people are well, taken care of and they are doing very well and they are being provided with necessary skills, those ones who don't have skills and want to take on this desperate may decide or will decide to build their skills, because traveling is good, is one of the best part of education, but the dangerous traveling is what we are not encouraging, and that is what we are preaching against.
Very good, sir. Someone is asking a question. What if I've entered the journey and halfway through I realize I have the wrong documentation, just as you did? What do you advise them today? How do they come back? What recourse do they have? What assistance can they get? I know we have people in Libya and in most of these countries you're talking about who we call voluntary returnees who are saying, IOM, come and get me out of here. Can you explain to us how that works?
In cases like this, we have seen people, it depends on where you are stranded. Most times, if you are stranded in where you don't have assistance, where you cannot have anybody to report to, you have to move to the nearest place. Try as much as possible to move to the nearest place where they can be, especially IOM office, or where you have Nigerian embassy, but mostly IOM office where you go and register and let them know, especially when you are in this kind of situation. Because most times people who are stranded on transit, going to Europe, the most active people who rescue them is International Organization for Migration. Then, in other situation, if you have a phone, because most times too we see people
Take
that
your phone.
Google and yes, if we see people that Google that they check and I see a lot of messages on my Facebook, even some of our colleagues, they go to Facebook, they go to Messenger, they say they are stranded in social place. Look at they saw our. So you can also be digitally compliant so that you'll be able to escape from there. You can get some kind of. I've rescued people from Zambia, from Egypt that have been incarcerated, even in India that have been incarcerated just from the phone, and we're able to send a message to other IOM office or embassy. Then they located them. So some of these opportunities can come your way and you use it to escape from there. Because the truth is, by the time you notice that you are in danger on transit, please do not hesitate to find the nearest place for rescue.
Very good. I have questions that people have dropped here. So someone has asked, we know many migrants rely on social media or advice from acquaintances. What are possible red flags someone should look out for to instantly spot a fake job offer or a fraudulent travel agent?
Yes, for those of you that listen,
yes.
For those of you that listen to my presentation, we talked about you investigating, asking questions. There are relevant agencies that you can ask questions. They have phone numbers. Nigeria Immigration Service, go to their website, there are phone numbers. Migrant Resource Center, there are phone numbers. NAPTIP, there are phone numbers. National Commission for Refugees, there are IOM, there are phone numbers. Okay, there was somebody that was stranded in Tunisia. The person is presently in my shelter. How did he get to know that there's a PCI shelter that is in Lagos while he was in Tunisia? He went to NAPTIP platform and sent a message to NAPTIP that I am a male. I want to return back to Nigeria and I don't want to go to my family because of what I'm facing. I need a place where I can stay. And NAPTIP immediately sent my number to the guy. But before NAPTIP sent it, NAPTIP called me. The commander called me and said, Mr. Oster, somebody is going to call you from Tunisia. He made a request through the internet and we said he should reach out to you. The person is presently at the shelter as I'm talking to you. He has spent over 3 months there. So, these are positive things that also happen through the phones, but you must ask from the right channel. Because the problem is a lot of people are looking for something that is juicy, something that is very attractive. Somebody can tell you, I will put in Transcorp eating when you come. Those are fake, promises. But genuinely, go reach out to government agencies, check and communicate. The guy that returned from India, how did he get to know our shelter? He also checked in the internet and gave me a call. When he called me, I answered him on a Sunday. I was supposed to be in the church. I picked up the call and answered. He said, please, sir, he's stranded. That he's in front of my office. That he came back. I said, okay, send me your documents. Send me your profile. He sent me his pictures. I tried to verify and I told him, and I asked him to go to the shelter. He went to the shelter and stayed. So there are genuine places you can get rescue in Nigeria.
Very good, sir. The next question, I think you've kind of answered it. It says, when an offer seems too good to be true, what are the safest official channels or platforms an individual can use to verify if a job contract or visa sponsor is legitimate? I think we have a lot of these people who have gone to the US on this sponsorship and they get there and realize they're fake. So how do you verify these? Is there something the UK embassy provides for this or those countries where we can check?
So is it a verification of whether the
verification of job contracts or visa sponsors?
Yeah. These days, the kind of structure we have now in Nigeria, it is very easy to verify. Before now, we do not have a migration management structure in Nigeria. But now we have that, even at different states, at different locations. Even the embassies now, they are involved. Foreign affairs, they are involved. We have desk officers in foreign affairs that if we have such information, we send it to them and they send it to the appropriate quarter and get feedback. Unlike before, these things were not there. You may not have access to embassy easily. But by the time you're able to ask questions, where can I get a migration advisory in Nigeria? We have Migrant Resource Center now in Lagos. We have in Abuja. We have in Benin.
Edo State.
We have in
Edo State.
Yeah, that is Benin there, Edo State, yes. So these are active centers that can help you. Then we even in Edo State, we have a Edo State Migration Agency, that can also provide some level of 1 or 2, they can probe further, even though they don't have information, they can help you to probe further and get information. These things were not there before. So I think we're improving in terms of awareness and interventions for some of these things.
Okay. Another question, I think this is second to the last. It says, how can vulnerable travelers protect their legal identity documents like passports and funds, just like you did, from being confiscated or used against them by these exploiters and traffickers? Because it might be difficult if these people are the ones handling you, they can force you, they can kill you. So what would you advise if someone has unfortunately
Definitely.
fallen into this group?
Yeah, you see, one of the things from my experience, once you are going for this kind of travel, try not to be too flashy and try to keep yourself intact. Don't be too, don't talk too much, don't expose yourself too much, because definitely everybody is vulnerable on every trip they're traveling. But the most vulnerable, make sure that you don't expose yourself too much, because your document is very important. Try and keep your document intact in a secured place. You have a bag that you can keep throughout with you. You have a box, possibly you can put it in your box, but most times let it be
On
with
your
you.
body?
Carry it along. Yeah, because most times when you go out in a country that you don't know and you are not with your document, you can also be a problem. It can also be a problem. So in situations like this, keep the documents intact with you.
On your person?
Make sure that you protect it yourself.
Okay.
So
Okay. Final question I see here. It says you mentioned skills and training as a
yes,
requirement for safe migration. In your
exactly.
experience, what are the most versatile skills or certifications a migrant can acquire before leaving that opens the most doors legally?
Yes, I was very, thank God I mentioned it it's also in my presentation.
Yes.
Before you travel, you have to inquire about the country you're going. What is popular there? What are they doing? What kind of jobs are existing in those countries? What kind of jobs are you going to do? What are the needs, in that country that is driving you to that place? So that is the area you focus your skill on. If you have it before in Nigeria, there are sort of a lot of certifications, some simple certifications you can even do to you know, to make your skill, to equate your skill with what is happening in abroad before you travel. These days, I know a lot of people are doing these caregivers courses online
Yeah.
now in Nigeria,
Yes.
and they use it to go to Canada and they get work. I've given recommendation to a lot of people through our organization, references, and they call us, people who have done some volunteer services in PCI. And today they are there because they were dedicated. They needed to do it here. If they have traveled without trying to do those online courses, they cannot fit in over in Canada. So some of these things, look at for the country, what is obtainable in that country. And make sure you go to a country where they have respect for human rights. Because most
Exactly.
times, some of these countries do not have respect for human rights. And you
Most
walk
of
and walk,
those
they will use you as
Northern
slaves.
African countries, yes.
Yes, they will use you as slaves and they will not pay you. These are the countries that attract most of our unskilled youth. So for our youths and for people who are interested to travel and you need to match your skill, please make inquiry. Check in the system, make research. Research could be online. Research could be also with people who know more than you. Because one of the best part of education is asking questions and you learn. Thank you.
Yeah. You are very right. I remember when I was working in those days in JMG, there was a young guy who came in, very hardworking young guy. And suddenly he just came on there and said, "Oh, mommy, I'm resigning. Where are you going?" Oh, someone is taking him to Dubai. They have a beautiful job. And there was no
Disaster.
amount of discussions we had with this guy. He
That's
didn't
a big
hear.
trouble.
He left. And then he got to Dubai and realized he was going to be doing houseboy.
That is
Not
it.
just houseboy, in a
And
terrible place. He
before he
spent
can
1 year.
realize himself,
By the
yes,
time he came back
the
at the end
damage.
of 1 year, this guy came back. He
Yes.
had hepatitis B. We don't know what they did to him,
They
but
have
he came back
damaged
with
it.
hepatitis B, but he came back
Yes,
voluntarily at that time, and his family, just as you said,
exactly.
he really did not get a lot of family support, when he came
Exactly.
back, because just as you said, they were like, other people have survived it. Now you went with people. Why are you the only one who
Exactly.
came back? So I think later one of his brothers
Exactly.
then, who is a church member, was able to let him come into his place. And that's how they started rehabilitating him and treating him and all that. So I think really this has really been very eye-opening, and I like the interaction and the questions people have asked. So two final things they're
Yeah.
saying here. Someone is asking, please, where is your shelter? If you can drop the
Okay.
address of your shelter. And then the second
Okay.
question, which still applies to you, is how can we meet this guy from India? I think some people
Is
would like
there?
to give him some sort of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
assistance.
And the guy will be very helpful. We have even absorbed the guy in our organization now
Oh,
to
wow.
train returnees and potentials
Oh,
under
beautiful.
with ICT. So he's ready to offer training. We're starting it at the shelter presently. This ICT, because that is what is obtainable now. You
Yes.
can be in your room and work remotely if you know how to use some of these tools. So that is it. Not 419. Some people think, and we're not talking about Yahoo. We are
No,
talking
no,
about
no.
real ICT work, digital
Yes.
work. And you'll be employed while you are in Nigeria here. So he's ready. He's at the shelter now. So the shelter is at
Okay.
Ikpaja, and it's at Ikpaja, Goduniyamu Street in Ikpaja by command. So it's a shelter that is for only men,
Only men.
males. Yes, it's for boys from the ages of 12 years, and above. 12 years for emergency situations. They don't stay there for long. But people who are adults, maybe those ones that can take care of themselves, can stay and begin to rebuild their life before they leave.
Okay.
From
Now,
there.
when you talk about
So
shelter,
that is
I
it.
believe this shelter is not just for only people that have been trafficked or returnees. Do you also have this shelter for we do a lot of advocacy with the youths, and we've come across youths who have been exposed to the wrong side of life. So do you also handle those kind of youths who maybe they've fallen
Yeah,
into the wrong places with drugs and
yeah,
all that, and then where they can be
yeah,
rehabilitated?
because of we like call it the magnanimity of the work. The work is huge, even for the people who need it, for the people who were really the first respondent, who are the stranded, vulnerable return migrants and male victims of trafficking. We are still trying to see how we can attend to them. But that does not mean that the people who are stranded in Nigeria, because we have given support to one or two persons who are in this situation, but because for people who are on drug, there's always a big problem when we take them in that shelter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's always a very serious, you need specialized attention, and most times this aggression. Shelter in such a shelter, we don't operate a closed shelter, it's an open
It's a close,
shelter.
yes. Okay, okay.
We do open shelter.
Open
So
shelter.
because it has to be
People
your
can come and
choice.
go.
Yes, but because for people with such kind of special cases, maybe drugs, you may have to begin to consider a closed shelter. You need somebody who is
Yes,
going to be with them 24. So those are the challenges.
that
But
you
if
can.
we see minor cases, we take one or two, minor emergency cases. But basically, it's for the people who understand the shelter more and able to appreciate it more are people stranded return migrants who want to be reintegrated that need to pass through the process. Mm.
Very good, sir. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Mr. Osita. This has really been
Mm.
extremely enlightening. I just want to ask another question. With
Mm.
what you've said, running a shelter is not going to be something that is so easy. How do you finance? How do you
It's a
finance your
very
shelter?
it's a very difficult thing. Very difficult. Very, very, very difficult. Now, first of all, you need to be connected to the shelter before you can manage a shelter. When I mean connected to the shelter, you have to be passionate about it. You need to understand what problem you want to solve. Because the issue is you need to solve that problem personally before you can get support from anybody. So our approach, how we started, is that we started solving the problem personally first. First of all, I am myself, I'm very passionate about it, and I understand what people who return and are vulnerable and needs that kind of a thing. I understand what they need. The major problem in shelter is food. They have to eat. You understand? They have to
Yes.
eat before any other assistance. Anybody who is hungry cannot listen to any psychosocial support. Anybody who is hungry cannot listen to any vocation. So the major problem is, so you have to think about sacrificing, giving. If you have 20,000 naira for your family to go to market, you divide it into two and put some in the shelter. That is the only way you can survive. Then before people will begin to support, maybe partners, they need to see that you are dedicated to that cause. and they also know that you are providing you bringing up some results, and they can refer people, and you can also get people there, and they can stay. And you have to make the shelter a friendly place for them, because most times shelter can also be a place where you revictimize them or even make them more crazy. We have seen situations where when people come, I've had some wrong managers. When I mean wrong managers, instead of making people to heal in the shelter, they create more problem for these people. And I tell them, I said, no, this shelter is not a place. It's not a police station. And it's not a place where you start telling them, hey, look at the way you are. No. It's a place where you make somebody feel at home. You make somebody know that I have made a mistake. I've come to a place where I will,
I will heal.
readjust my life. Yes, I will heal. So these are the things. Shelter is but it's a good experience. For me, I feel it's a very good experience.
Mr. Osita, I now want to ask on behalf of EHF. We're based in Benin, and we talk to a lot of young, impressionable students in schools. So will you be willing to one of these days come and speak to some of our schools? Because they're the ones who are falling into this trap, especially in Edo State. We all know the history of Edo State. I know it's calmed down a bit now, but we know the history. So will there be a time we'll be able to invite you to come and speak to students?
Yeah, like you did this
university and in
program now.
secondary schools? Yes.
Yeah, like you did this program now, and I was well informed, and we planned it very well. I prepared for it, both emotionally, physically, and everything. I put my time on it. Yeah, if we can do that, and some of this activity too, looking at it, we have so many activity, timely information, and also we have to look at the logistic aspect. Coming to Benin is another. We look at the logistics. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's part of what we are doing. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Osita. Madam Sarah, if you're there, I would like some comments from you. Maybe you have one or two thoughts to share. Madam Sarah, are you there? Chairman? I would have loved to hear her take on what we've discussed and the invite to Benin. But it seems I think she's quite busy. I told you earlier that she had some other meetings coming up.
No problem.
Benjamin, is any of you there to prompt Madam? Maybe she's in a meeting. Okay, if she can't make it, I just want to say, Mr. Osita, we have been enlightened. We have been well educated, and
thank you so much.
What we like about our program, our webinars, is that they're recorded and then they're also still there on our YouTube page for people to go back and watch and listen. So we're sure we're going to still have a lot of people paying attention to this message we have had today. I'm particularly happy because, in doing this, when we've tried to reach people before to say, listen, we want to have people who will come and tell their stories. People tell you, some people don't want to come out and expose themselves, but we're so happy to hear from someone who you just didn't have one experience. You had two different experiences. You had the experience of the passports that was fake, and then you had the experience of going on that, as someone called it in the chats, on the Israelites' journey, which you were lucky to come out of safely. So we thank God for that. We really appreciate your time, and we pray that God will continue to increase your business and you continue to make a huge impact on the lives of those who pass through your shelter. And I hope that some of them will also live there and pay forward what you have put into them by also opening up their own shelters and also doing other things for the people around them. So thank you very much. I want to extend a sincere thanks to Mrs. Ajose Adeogun and to Tisu Consulting for hosting us and letting us use their platform. And we look forward to the next one next month. And whenever I have any of these, I'll keep inviting you so you can also invite your people to hear what we're doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And to our viewers, we appreciate your time. We thank you for being with us, and we hope this has really opened your eyes to what is going on and to help you migrate regularly. Thank you so much, everyone, and God bless us all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a lovely evening. Take care, sir.
You too.